Thanks for having this amazing like conference. For what I've been seeing, like all these amazing like talks are overwhelming. My talk, I hope it's gonna like resemble with some people that are listening to. It's not as great as other talks, but at least I have a specific goal on it. And it's kind of funny too, because it's also following a little segue from what Sanket said, that you should just don't make a tool a religion. And this is actually the main goal of this tool. Hijacking CSS with Tailwind is kind of like a clickbait title, but at the end, what I'm gonna show is how I'm using Tailwind, why I think it's good, and also do, if I have time, do a little demo. And then you can have your own judgment, and then you can try yourself and see if it fits with your team or your project or whatever. So let's dive into it. So first, a little description, a little bio about myself. I'm originally a designer. I'm from Panama, but I live in Barcelona. I'm a self-taught front-end developer. Also, I've been working for almost like 10 years between designers and developers. And that's actually what I really enjoy. And I started my first like front-end development job in 2012. So I've been doing front-end between CSS and JavaScript and other technologies like for at least 8 years. And now I'm mainly, I'm co-founding my first startup. And also I'm teaching React, React Native, and GraphQL to a bunch of people. So you can check out my content on things that I do online on my Twitch channel that I'm gonna put the link in the below, and also my YouTube channel there. So so yeah, let's talk about a little context. So I've been using Tailwind for like 2-3 projects now, so it's going a couple months. And I used to do all my CSS, so I'm not I will not call myself an expert, but I used to do everything by myself. I don't typically use Bootstrap or any other CSS library. So I was really into doing everything by myself. And also make sure that whenever I say something, remember that I used to be I'm a designer as a background. That's my background actually. So everything that involves coding and design, in this case CSS, like really like touch into my vein. So a little bit about Tailwind. So Tailwind is an amazing utility first CSS framework. If you don't know what it is, it's just a bunch of a lot of classes, a lot of CSS classes that are very atomic, that are just applying one simple thing, that you can compose them and you can create your components, create your layouts with it. So you're not like, it's, let's go with the bullet points. So I don't step into myself. Utility first, like atomic classes, just one thing with one class. Then it's responsive to the core. That's one thing that you can see, like right here, you see the MD in front of flex and other classes. I'm gonna talk about that later. And also it's component friendly. Component friendly doesn't mean that it has components. Component friendly means that you can compose these classes to create your components. And one thing that it's cool about Tailwind, because everything is built up, all those classes are built up together, consistency comes with it. So it doesn't matter if you use one class and one component, another class, another component. The only thing that matters is that you follow the same variables, the same values, and you will get the same result. Okay, so no specific class or components, component examples. So you can see here, there are like alerts, you can see buttons, you can see different components that you can build with Tailwind, just applying a bunch of classes. Okay, so and also it's designed to be customized, because all these classes are built using post CSS. So it's actually following one JSON file that has all the values, all the attributes, everything that you need to that it needs to apply and create those classes. And you can combine, you can compose, you can like modify this configuration, and you can generate as much classes as you need to, or maybe change values, change colors, change every like whatever you need to in order to follow your design patterns. So a couple like cool features about Tailwind that I really like are the pseudo classes. So you see here that you have like this is how you apply a specific blue background in a component. But imagine you want, whenever the user hovers that component, you want to change the background. So you just apply this like prefix to any class in Tailwind, and it will be applied whenever the user hovers that component. The same happens to focus and also active. And then you have other different classes that you can, that are not built in by default. You can enable them, like focus within, and the other ones are like a hover or something. You can apply also styles to elements inside another element. So imagine you have this box, and whenever you hover that box, you want to change something in the button. So you can also do that. That's like group hover or something like that. I don't remember. But those like extra features, you need to enable it independently. They're not enabled by default. Another cool thing that I think Tailwind has, and many other technologies that are pretty successful, is a pretty well documentation. And I think Tailwind is one of the best documentations websites about a technology that I've seen so far. And it's pretty simple to just go, like imagine you want to see like what are the backgrounds that you can do. So you can just go and say background color, and then it will go and show you all the possible backgrounds that you can apply by default using Tailwind. And this is quite powerful when you start using one technology, that the documentation helps you to learn, helps you to navigate and find whatever you need to. And also because Tailwind it's built on top of PostCSS, you can add plugins. And you can add PostCSS plugins, and you can enable the PostCSS ecosystem on top of Tailwind, and you can do as much of crazy things that you want. One example like of this is this plugin that I think it's, you see the list of plugins that you have, and one of the official ones that I don't know if it's still like up to date, but you can enable a plugin to get this component-like classes like Bootstrap or other CSS library like this. So you can then use form input and form label and all those classes that people sometimes like. I personally don't like this specific component classes, but I mean that's depends on what you want, what you need. And as I said before, because it's always following the same system, the same configuration, it enforces consistency. So for the case of, we're gonna see it later, for the case of margin and padding and sizing, like the spacing, all those classes follow the same rules, the same numbers. So no matter which one you prefer, if you use the same number, it's gonna be the same value at the end. So is this the demo that I built? No, this is the code, this is the demo. So I don't know how I am with time. I forgot to put my timer, but this is something pretty simple that I'm gonna try to build now, like, and try to help, like, walk you through the decisions that I'm doing using Tailwind CSS. And also, if you want to see it, like the whole thing built up, the whole website and everything, I did a Twitch stream yesterday and I'm gonna put the I was uploading the video to YouTube. So after the talk, I'm gonna review that and then put a link in the Discord channel or maybe on Twitter too. So so yeah, let's talk about the demo. Let's do the demo. So here, if I go to the index file, you see that I have like this layout. Let me see here. So I have nothing but just like the basic wrapper. I'm gonna build the form that you see over there. So one sec. Okay. Yes. So the first thing that I need to do, actually, let me just open the, let me just open this and put it below so we can see that. Oh, come on. Good. Okay, so here's the result, and here's the website that okay. So the first thing that I need to do, I need a wrapper, right? I need a wrapper that it's gonna have the same, you see, the same padding between all the components. So that's something that I'm gonna add to this block at the viewer like end. So I also know that I'm gonna need a form. So that's what I'm gonna use. I'm gonna use then a div, and then also let's do semantics first. So form. And then inside a form, I need to have three elements. It's going to be the username with the label and the input, the password with the label and the input, and then a simple submit button. So I usually do this with a div. So I wrap all these components, the label, the input, and then the error message that you can see here. I wrap everything into a div. So that will give me a better sense of layout for these components. So then I'm gonna do label HTML4 equals to username. So then username. Then I'm gonna do an input, type text. So this is gonna be nothing. So this is self-close, good. So now also I'm gonna do an error p tag, so error here. So you see that it's applying everything there, and let's just start designing this because I don't think I'm gonna have time to build the whole thing. I'm just gonna then comment all the code. So here, this is the actual div that it's outside. So this div, I'm gonna add a class name that I need to add a background white. And this background white is gonna apply, of course, a background white to the whole thing. And then I'm gonna add some padding. So I want to add padding to the whole, the top, bottom, left, and right equals. So I can just do P and then select one of the values. So I'm gonna put maybe 8, that is 2 rems. It's gonna be like 32 pixels if you're curious. And there you go. You see that I have that same consistent padding over there. I'm using this is whatever whenever I press space, I have this I don't know what it is, like a select. This is an extension from VS Code that you can install, and it will give you the option to select any Tailwind CSS class, and not only the default ones. It will check all the classes that you apply, that you create with the config, and it will be a value here. It will be like you can have them over there. So then I'm gonna do rounded because I want those like great rounded corners. And also let's do a shadow MD. Why not? So now you see whenever I save, you see that it's applying that. Now let's go to the form. I'm not gonna do too much to the form. And also let's deal with responsives, because whenever this page is mobile, I want the whole form to be full width. So now I want to do here full, sorry, it's with full, it's gonna be 100%. And then I'm gonna do, whenever you pass the media query from the medium value that I applied, I want that to be a max with, I don't know, MD, why not? So now you see that it has that, and whenever I goes down, it will change, just applying these classes. And this class will not be applied for below MD, below my medium media query, okay? So now let's go to here. Let's go to this div. This div is applying that to the label and the input. So I'm gonna do a class name, and it's gonna be, let me see here. I'm just gonna do relative. That is gonna apply a position relative, and you see why later. And then a margin bottom of 10, that it's 2.5 rems, I think. So this is useful for the error message that you're gonna see later. Then, whoop, sorry about that. Then let's go for the label. The label class name, I'm gonna add that class name to do, I want this to be, one sec. I want this to be bold. So to apply bold is gonna be font bold. And then also the text, I want to change the color. So the way to change the color is text gray and text dash whatever color that you have, and then all the different like levels of that color. So in this case, I want, I think, 700. And you see that changes over there. Then let's go to the input, class name equals, and then let's go back here. And we're gonna apply, so I need a little separation between username and between the label and the input. So I'm gonna do empty margin top 2, that it's half rem, 0.5 rem. Then also I want to some padding. So padding is interesting because you can not only apply padding separately for different sites, but also you can apply padding horizontal and padding vertical. And this is what I'm gonna do. So padding vertical is gonna be padding Y, and I'm gonna apply padding Y2, and padding horizontal is gonna be padding X. And I'm gonna do padding 4. So whenever I save that, and also I'm gonna add a border. Let's do that. And this is, and there you go. And there you have it. Also, I need this to be a block element. So yes, rounded. Okay. So I want that to be width full. So then I'll have that below, and there you have it. And also I'm gonna do rounded SM. So the cool pattern that I have for the error is because you usually say that whenever you add that error message, there's no space to add that, and usually the form jumps between spaces because you're adding an element depending on if there's a toggle error or not. So what I'm gonna do is just apply this toggle error. So you can see that it shows our height. So now it's showing a height. You see that it's jumping. But now if I add class name absolute to this, it will stay there and it will not jump. And this is like a cool technique that I use usually for these error messages. And then, yeah, we can apply those. And you know what? Let me just copy and paste the whole thing here so we can see the result. And let me just walk you through it. So here you see that also this is another thing that I wanted to show. I'm not using the actual label input. I'm using a label component. And then let's pass here a class name of background red 500. And then you see that it's been applied there, but also the other classes. So this is a normal React technique that you have your label component, and you're accepting also class name, and you just like use template literals to add those classes there. So this is like maybe you want to, this is a component that you reuse in a lot of places. Like this is a cool technique to do it. And actually this is not related to just Tailwind. This is just like React and how you apply components between in your applications. But this is a way that you don't see this bloated all these classes all together here. And also this is another cool thing that I have here, that you can you see the toggle error button changes depending on the toggle error's value. So the way to do this with Tailwind, and also to make sure whenever you because remember that we need to take care of performance. So Tailwind by default is going to add a bunch of classes, and you usually are not going to use all of them. So the way to strip out those classes that you don't need, it's using actually a post CSS process called purge CSS, and it's a setup. You can see it's already set up here. You can see the configuration later. I'm gonna have put the link of the repo, but you cannot, like you see here that I'm applying text grade 700 and text white. I could just do like a template literal thing here and change it just that part. But if you do that, it's not gonna purge CSS. It's not gonna interpret that as a class name. So it might have some like side effects that you don't have that class already in your production bundle. So the way to do that is actually just putting the whole string, and that way purge CSS will strip out the classes that you are not using. So yeah, and what else that I have here? Also the hover thing, and then you see that you can also apply transitions, and you have here the same as like the responsive thing, and it's just it's a pretty simple example to show you how I use Tailwind. So let's see what else. Like a couple of days ago, I shared a tweet about some questions for this talk. So there are some things that I put here, like you don't have to know CSS to use it, and I think that's wrong, because you actually need to know a little bit of CSS, or at least you need to know what are those atomic name classes are applying to in order to get the result that you want. Remember that here you don't have component specific classes, so you need to construct all your components, all your styles using those atomic classes or utility classes. So in order to do that effectively, you need to actually know CSS. There's no way to do that without digging into it and also going through the documentation of Tailwind. Also, you cannot use CSS in JS library and Tailwind together, and that's also wrong. You can do that too, because there's some things that you might not be able to do with Tailwind by itself. Like maybe one thing that I saw is that applying keyframe animations or very customized things. You cannot do that with Tailwind. So for that, you can apply the same way as you saw the label component that you're applying a class name. You can also do like CSS here and apply all the CSS that you need to, and it will work like exactly the same. It's going to work fine, so no errors there. Also, you end up with a lot of unused classes in your app, and that's also wrong, because you have that you have the power of post CSS to purge those classes from your production bundle. And what else? There's also another questions here. How does it scale in a team of different backgrounds? I think in this case, like Tailwind is going to scale the same as other technology or other library or other framework, because there's a learning curve here also. So it's going to scale depending on how much they know, or how much they're willing to learn. I think that's more important, how much you're willing to learn and unlearn other things that they've been doing too with CSS. So there's also another question. The CDN version is not complete like the npm or yarn version, meaning that you need an npm project, and that's true, because if you can use Tailwind just from the CDN, but like I said before, you're gonna get the whole classes, all the classes that Tailwind creates, and that means that you cannot customize the classes, you cannot do like these extra pseudo classes features that you can enable without an npm project. So yeah, you're gonna be a little limit on using the CDN version, but for the sake of prototyping and doing something really fast, I think the CDN version works pretty well. And yeah, I think those are the questions that I have on my side. And also, so some final thoughts. Should you use it? Yes or no? It depends on what is the state of your project. If you actually is something like Tailwind, like utility classes, utility first CSS framework helps you to build your product better and apply this sense of consistency with this type of technology, then go for it. For me, it's a very easy and fast way to bootstrap and start building my products. So that's why I use it. And yeah. Also, show example of real code. You say, okay, so yeah, I can, like if you want to, I can show you a little bit of that. Do you like to have all those classes in? Yeah. So some considerations also that you need to do is that you see that the code here has a bunch of classes, CSS classes, or you might end up with, if your component it's built up with a lot of these little components here, and you're repeating a lot of things, maybe, and you don't like that, maybe Tailwind is not for you. But like I said, you can do something like things like label, and you see that here, whenever you use label, you have a very simple component here. So what is the level of expertise of CSS that you do you have, your team? That also is very important. And then how much tight coupled is your current project to the actual CSS? Yeah, if you want to use something else and you are tied to maybe Bootstrap or Foundation or other types of frameworks like this, maybe you need to consider first refactor your application and then start digging into something like Tailwind or other technologies. Like also, there are some solutions, other solutions apart from utility first CSS classes that I really like. Again, this is not a talk to convince you to use Tailwind. This is a talk to put everything in perspective and help you to make better decisions. So modules, it's kind of it's a really cool product that it helps you building design systems for your applications. You should definitely check that out. Also, Theme UI, it's very it's very similar to Tailwind in the case of in the sake of you have a configuration file, and then you can apply different props or different types of values to your components to enhance consistency. So check that out. Reba CSS is actually the core, or how like I think Rebus and Theme UI are quite similar. Actually, we can go there and see them. Let's go. Yeah, I trust in that URL. So these are like very primitive components that you can apply different props to them. So you see here that you have components like box, card, image, heading, and on those components you can apply the SX prop or CSS in JS, and you're using values too that are defined in your theme. So it's also quite good if you like to just stay in the JavaScript land. This is a pretty like good way to go. Then Chakra UI, that is actually a component library. Bulma, React.io, that enforce a lot of accessibility features, and also Rich UI. And of course, the usual suspects, emotion and style components. And hey, if you like to do your own CSS, you can do that too. Like there's no right or wrong. There's no better or worse. It's just what's better for you, what works best for you, and what gives you less friction in order to build your products. Because actually, at the end, your users or your clients, they don't care about what CSS in the JS library that you are using. They just care that it's working and it looks great and it's performant and the product is great. So some references from this talk. You see there's a community page. Also, there's a Discord server for Tailwind. There's one awesome Tailwind CSS repo with a bunch of links over there. Tailwind UI. It's a product that it's built on top of Tailwind that helps you like have a lot of examples of layout and components. You definitely check that out. It's built from the same creators as Tailwind, like Adam Wadham and Steve. And also, I did some Twitter threads about Tailwind and my experience with it. Also, I have some theming tutorials using Tailwind in English and Spanish. And definitely check that out. Here are the links. I can share this later in the Discord server. Actually, I'm gonna take the repo and put it there. And thanks. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and that's it.
Hey, Horacio. We were supposed to take the question for you, but you did a great job yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, I was collecting questions like right before the conference, so I don't know if there's any more like that.
Yeah, we have one more.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a criticism, a little bit of a question, but I'll go ahead and read it anyways. I still don't get Tailwind. Why build a class mapping for every CSS property when you can just use any CSS and JS tool like Emotion and write CSS in line? I know that you covered this a little bit already, but do you want to expand on it a little bit?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's just another tool that follows a different paradigm than CSS in JS or Emotion or style components. So I don't think it's better or worse. I just think different. So just choose whatever works better for your team, for your product, and build products. That's the important part.
You know, also you said that obviously you've used Bootstrap before, but you don't use it now. Is there a big difference between the two that kind of led you to eventually pick up Tailwind, where you wouldn't use Bootstrap? When I look at it, I think of the pseudo classes, the customization, the plugins, the fact that it's built on top of Post CSS. I got all these things from you. You did a great job of explaining it. I feel like I know how to use Tailwind now, but would you like to elaborate any more?
Yeah, like the main and the core difference between Bootstrap or a library like Bootstrap and Tailwind is that Bootstrap makes decisions for you in terms of components. So
yes,
in my experience working with Bootstrap, it's pretty awesome to get started to build some also like Tailwind. Like you can start right away building things and have a prototype pretty easily. But whenever you want to customize something or change a color or maybe change a behavior, that's when things get hairy for me. So that's why I try to avoid it. And actually, I have I have like 2-3 experiences with Bootstrap, and eventually we end up stripping it out and doing our own classes. That happens to me with Foundation. So yeah, it's just like, but that's more because I like doing CSS and I understand. I'm willing to do it by myself because I want to control everything. But I know that's not the case for everyone. So yeah, that's my take on that.
And I'll leave it with, Caesar made a really good comment in the YouTube chat saying, really awesome talk. Liked how you framed it, not sounding like a salesman, but giving great insights. And I also think that's true. And thank you very much for your talk, and also for taking the questions on Twitter and kind of handling all yourself. You're taking my job away from me here, man. but I like it.
I didn't mean
great.
to, but yeah.
Oh, it's fine.
I'm also
Thank you very much.
I'm also a fan of
Thank you very much,
ThemeUI.
Horacio, for joining us.
Sorry?
Oh, that's it. I'm a big fan of ThemeUI also. Do you have a preference between ThemeUI and Tailwind?
I'm a really fan of ThemeUI too. I build like a couple websites too with that, and I don't know. I think I don't have. If I need to work now at something, like I need to start doing something by myself, I will start using Tailwind, because that's the thing that I'm using currently. That doesn't mean that it's better. But if I'm in a team, I let them choose. Like, you want ThemeUI? Great, that's amazing. If you want Tailwind, let's do it. That's great. So I don't have a really tough preference between ThemeUI and Tailwind. I know that with ThemeUI, you can do a bunch of customizations also. Like you are more attached to JavaScript, so you are very close to it. You can have more interoperation between them. With Tailwind, it's a little bit more complex. You need more code to do that. So that's the main difference, I think.
And I just want to reiterate, Dimitri made a comment, and I wanted to say I wasn't trying to be negative by saying it was a criticism. It kind of was a criticism, but it got kind of good criticism. And I think that that's a thing as well. But just wanted to reiterate that.
And sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say the library that you mentioned, Purge CSS, that's what I was going to ask about, and you answered that. So thank you very much. PurgeCSS.com.
Yeah.
Thanks,
awesome. Thank you.